But we haven't taught together now for about, gosh, it's now
been
3 months.
Yeah, since
June.
Yeah.
It was
the withdrawal's been kind of.
Yeah, it was, our spouses, I've been married for 31 years and you've been married
30.
for 30. And our spouses thought that when we got together, it was kind of this funny
Oh,
thing.
we both drove an hour on the way home, so we were always calling each other. That's what we did most of our planning.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking on the way home. What's all this? What are these phone calls? You know, the long. We're planning. You know, we should have deducted that anyway.
I know, we probably should. Yeah. All right, so I don't know, how many of you are involved in education right now? I know you're all interested in education, but how many are actually involved? Can I get a show of hands? Okay, so you're actually directly to Tide. Any teachers in the group? Okay, oh good, okay. So you'll appreciate this part. So I wasn't sure, so bear with me for the people that have that experience, but I wanted to open up and just start sharing with you what a typical day looks like for a teacher. Because for me, it was overwhelming. Coming from the private sector and then moving from a stay-at-home mom, being very involved with philanthropies and doing some of the same thing that we were doing, not-for-profit organizations, and then deciding to go back and get my teaching certificate and teach math and science because of my love of children and my love of science, technology, engineering, and math, being from IBM. And so I think that it was just a blessing that Dave and I got together because I was totally overwhelmed. I'm just going to tell you, like coming in, I was really good in the summer and I thought project-based was all that I had ever known because when we were at IBM, we did projects, right? So implementation was easy. I should have done that. I started many a philanthropy and so I just thought, okay, this was going to be like super easy, and I was all excited. I was ready for the kids on the first day, and we did all this planning. But I realized, I don't think that I realized how a typical day went for a teacher. So going backwards, I had this. We're going to talk about the planning and how we got involved with facing the future and how that helped ahead of time. But one of the things that I just wanted to kind of share is what it looks like. So I had to write down notes myself just to like think about all the things that we do. So the first thing is you get in, you either plan the day before, but you're still planning when you get in to make sure that you're kind of practicing or rehearsing every day to make sure that your learning activities are actually going to meet the standards that have been set and make sure they align with that. Then you take it and you record it on a board to make sure that the students understand the activities and what the objectives for the day are going to be. So then you're done with that, then you prepare any resources necessary for those days' activities. And even tonight, I forgot one of my resources, so you have to think about all these things that you need for all of these activities that you're doing. Then you greet the students at the door, and at that point, you're requested by the administrators, or you do it just because that's what you should be doing as an educator, and you're assessing them at that particular point in time to see if they're even ready to enter the learning environment, which was like a new thing for me because I was always one of those learners, and I just never thought about it. And then you start your entry task, and while they're doing the entry task, which is a do now, it's a quick way to get them involved into the day, get them into the learning environment. Then you have all these administrative functions, so you got to take attendance, you got to collect any of the forms that they might have and do all this other stuff, and you're collecting it for what, 30 students maybe? So then at the end of that, you discuss the entry ticket and the entry task, and you start monitoring and start doing some formative assessment to try to understand what their knowledge is at that point and where you're going the next day. Then you teach your lesson, and you're checking for understanding while you're going through that. And then you administer at the end of that period, if you're in a middle school or high school, you're usually giving them some kind of an exit ticket to make sure that you're assessing them again so that they actually met the objective. And you're doing this, and it dawned on me that this happens for 6 hours out of the day, that you're actually with kids and you're actually providing this feedback. And at one point in time, I think I calculated in a year, you're doing 25,000 different feedbacks to kids. Because you have that many standards, that many learning targets, and you're sitting there trying to evaluate and look and assess where these kids are. And so I looked at my husband one day and he goes, wow, you are so tired all the time. And I have this like enormous amount of energy, and I thought that teaching would just be perfect for me, that nobody could ever make me tired. Not true. So anyhow, I come home and he goes, you're tired all the time. And I said, it would be like taking all of your employees, so for people who are in business, And you have how many employees? Most managers don't manage more than 60 employees, right? And that would be a ton. I mean, that would be a lot of people. So it would be like doing that every single day. You would be doing a performance appraisal or evaluation of what they're doing. And that's what we're asking teachers to do every single day. Then your day ends when you're with kids. Now you're grading those papers during your planning time, and they're asking you to plan and collaborate and integrate with other teachers so that you have these lessons that include writing and reading and science and technology and engineering skills and math skills. And the whole country is asking us to raise that up and say, so you're under this like enormous amount of pressure. Most teachers feel very beholden to the kids. They go into teacher, we obviously don't do it for the pay, because it would be like what? I don't know how much, I won't even say per hour.
Daycare.
Yeah. So, and then we have meetings, so I don't know if everybody's aware of this either, but it's not just planning with collaborative teams and working within your discipline, but then we're also expected to be part of professional learning communities to develop our own skills. We're also asked to go to IEP meetings, which are individual educational plan meetings for kids that have special needs. So those are separate meetings that they're asking us to do. We also have staff meetings just to check in and do that. So it is, I think when I went into this, for me, it was really kind of an awakening coming from the private sector and going into the public sector. I had seen it all happen in schools, but I never really knew what that would take. So, on top of that, and I made some other lists, so is anybody else overwhelmed? Because I just want to make sure that I'm the only one that we're still working pathetically, and we were really lucky at Taft Academy because we did have the technology, but most schools, the schools that I moved to, there is a complete lack of resources. I went to go take out some computers. I just wanted to reserve the computer lab, and every computer lab or every computer that we have in the school was taken up, and it's not available. So not every discipline gets the opportunity to be able to work with the technology. So there definitely is a lack of resources related to technology. So then that meant, okay, so I can't do the technology, which is my love. Now I have to use something else to teach a science. So I went to the textbooks. So I looked at the textbooks, and they're copyrighted from 1994. Now, I don't know about you, but I think science has changed just a little bit from 1994 to 2013. And for my kids, because we're teaching 6th and 7th grade, they weren't even born until 1999 to 2000. So the textbooks are older than these kids are. So just in case you're scared, you don't know, what else to do, that's like a big thing. And so these are all things I was just thinking about when we were coming down here. The other thing that is a little outdated is the media. Even if you go to like Discovery Education to go and look at educational videos to try to help you to go through that too. Some of the videos, like I just did a video on cells, and I was looking for a more updated video on cells to help the kids understand the function and structure. And this particular video couldn't even describe what the function of the nucleolus was. And I thought, okay, how long have we kind of had an idea of what the nucleolus does? But that's okay. So we'll just move on and we'll impart. But so we're asking teachers too to have this depth of knowledge to be able to teach so that our kids are ready for those careers in the future. That's huge. And that's a big thing. So at this point, and I didn't even talk about classroom management and differentiation because we already mentioned that. Do I need to go into this?
How many fights have you had in your class this year?
Oh yes, that was a new thing for me too. I've had two like knockdown where, I've never had a kid ever turn around. I pride myself on kind of setting up the classroom and making sure that the culture is safe and everything. And I don't know, the kids and I believe in teaching collaboration, so you set this all up and one kid just turned around and got annoyed because he wanted the other kid's pencil. Took the pencil and the other kid just turned around, special needs kid, turned around right in the face, choo, and I just went, oh boy. And I thought, okay, that's never happened. And you take those situations, and so you have to deal with that, and you have to look at all of those kids' needs, low, high, in between, special needs, ELL. I mean, there's 30 in one classroom, 30 different snowflakes that you're trying to make sure that you're meeting all of their little needs. And then you have another 30 coming in right after that. And then you have another 30 coming in. So at a middle school, high school level, you'll have 90 to 120 different students that you're trying to impact and make a difference in their life. And it's just not me. So we love partnerships like this. Anybody who's willing, wants to come into our classrooms, we love it. That's like a big thing, so I'm going to pitch that, because then that's going to lead into our partnership and planning with Facing the Future and how we got involved.
We
'cause
love
that was a
collecting
huge
business
thing.
cards, by the way.
You what?
We love collecting business cards. We have a whole stack
Yeah,
of
and
them,
we'll
'cause
use
really-
you. We love
Yeah,
that, love
yeah.
that, love that.
So she gave you a picture of the reality, the day-to-day reality of what teaching is. Now, at the same time, when we got together, obviously we're at a startup school, it's a STEM school, and we believed in that, and we kind of accidentally became partners. I was partnered with a young lady, and she was partnered with a brand new teacher, and he came up to me and he said, you know, I really don't want to teach 6th grade, I'd rather teach 7th grade. Do you want to trade? Okay, sure. Didn't know her, so we started talking, and the more we talked, it became apparent that, oh my gosh, this person is awesome. Because I've been teaching, this is my 30th year teaching, and it's been very difficult to find partners that want to work together on the level that I wanted to work. You know, with 21st century skills and collaboration and those kind of things and technology. And as we started talking, there was a connection there with that, whoa, you know, we wanted to integrate, meaning put the subjects together. I was humanities, which is social studies and language arts, and she was math and science at 6th grade. And we kept them for 2 years. We looped with them, that's what it's called. We had them for 6th and 7th. So we started talking and we went, whoa, this is cool. So we borrowed a room at City U down in Tacoma, because we're both City U graduates. And we grabbed materials and we started finding things, because we didn't have any textbooks. Our school wasn't ready. We started a week late, and we're kind of scrambling. There's no library. You know, we've got technology, we've got laptops, but what are we going to do? So we started digging around, like Ann said, this storage room. Hey, you know, it's all
This is
kind
my favorite.
Okay. This is cool. And then we found this thing, and we're like, okay, who's facing this thing? Well, okay, let's look through this stuff. Oh my gosh! We started looking at this going, whoa, and we had been creating a year-long plan. Deb's really good with publishers, so she had created this document, and we started planning out, what are we doing in math in January, and when language arts, so we could start finding those connections. And as we browsed through this material, it's like, oh my gosh, they're already thematically structured, they have activities, they've got, this book especially saved our lives so many times because it's got a lot of short activities you can use to launch a project, you can use to, and we'll get into that more later, you can use it as assessments, really awesome. So we started looking at this and creating these yearly plans. That's where most teachers have problems. I've been in 5 school districts, 7 schools. Every job, when I got hired, I'd say, can I have the curriculum? And they'd say, here's the book. Well, that's not a curriculum, that's a resource. So every time I would have to create a curriculum. So I became very good at it, and I loved it, and I was very good at it, but so many teachers aren't. So if you don't have a plan, how can you get to, you know, you're just surviving every day. So we started looking ahead, which was very cool, because most teachers don't think like she does. Of course, coming from business, you got to have a plan. You got strategic plans and things. So we started laying this stuff out, and then we started looking at, all right, what do we value? Well, obviously we value technology skills. How are we going to teach those? What are we going to teach when? How do we embed those in the curriculum? And then we started talking about things like collaboration, you know, social skills, leadership, okay? And then we started talking about, themes like ethics and critical thinking, okay, systems thinking, and this stuff.
And innovative thinking.
And innovative thinking. Systems thinking is all through this stuff. So is ethics, okay? And innovative thinking. So we started doing research. How do you teach ethics? How do you teach critical thinking? How do you teach innovative thinking? And the more we work together and having STEM backgrounds, we started doing all this research and we realized, you know what? There's really 2 key elements in a STEM education. Scientific method thinking and to the design process type thinking. Because that's really what we do all the time, no matter what discipline. We're creating hypotheses, we're setting up experiments, we're testing things, we're designing something. Even if you're in a language arts class, You're designing a story, you're writing a paper, you're going through the whole, you're coming up with a problem, you're predicting, yeah. So we started laying that out and framing these things out and thinking about, okay, how does this work? Then how do we embed those throughout the year? And that's what we worked on for 4 years, really, and last year it kind of came to fruition. And it was because of a lot of these materials that helped us frame that, get that concept down. Because what's happening right now with STEM education across the country, and this is kind of an editorial comment, but we see people adding more math classes, more science classes, they might have an engineering class or technology class. Well, that's really not what STEM is or should be. It's those thinking skills, those concepts embedded throughout the day. You can start in kindergarten. If every child had those basic concepts, those systematic ways of thinking up through 8th grade, oh my gosh, the things they could do in high school would be phenomenal. Okay? And that's where programs like Facing the Future help do that, because they've tied all that together. And you can kind of, and we're like a buffet. We don't follow a textbook. We grab this resource and this resource. It might be web-based, it might be, textbooks are fine, we still use them, they're great, but for a piece of it. So, and that's what's nice about these, they're already structured so that we can blend those in. So let me check my notes here and make sure I'm hitting everything. Did I miss anything, Deb?
Oh, I'm still going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so, let me just double check here. Yeah. So, that integrated piece is huge because it's hard to find materials that are kind of integrated. And even when you look at, where is it here?
Well, I'm going to pause for it.
What's that?
Which is Common Core now.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Right.
what
Well,
Common Core is all
In
about?
conjunction with the new science standards,
Yeah.
right? The new science standards are all engineering and science related. You know, it's not just science anymore. And the Common Core, the types of thinking that they're going to want kids to do in the Common Core is really what we've been doing.
Right.
We're embedding those types of skills.
Well, and even bigger than that, or, you know, to go back a little bit, when Dave and I first met, because now it's kind of started, we really looked at big ideas. So we
Yeah.
kind of looked at big global issues. And I think what was so enlightening for both of us, and this is, you know, just memories, was like looking back at engaging students through, we use this so much right now. This book is
Oh,
used
man,
a lot for me.
That's
So,
like
so for me, going back and thinking about this, it was understanding those big global issues or the things that are going on and how we really want students to think, or how I would like somebody that I'm hiring to think, because to me that thinking process is a big thing. I know I took a quote from Carl Sagan, because this is, and maybe it's because I was with IBM, but our motto was think. And it used to be that we used to get little pads of paper, so and now I'm dating myself, but this was back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Lotus paper.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Lotus paper, so we don't know. These little pads, and on the front of the pads it said think, right? Because that was Watson's big thing. You know, he wanted to make sure, Thomas Watson wanted to make sure that we all were thinking. And that's a big thing, right? You know, when you're competitive, and particularly in this world, when you're looking at those jobs and you're 1 out of 1,000 people that's going to get hired in a local area, you better know how to do this stuff, right? And I was in the era where girls were not into technology, and I programmed with 80-column cards, dropped them in the snow, did all this stuff, right? And the one thing, though, that I've always told the kids is no matter how the technology changes, because it will change. You know, that's one thing we know for sure. It's not going to stay the same that it is. It will be completely different. But you need to know how to think. And both of us had decided very early on. So Carl, this is the other one, Carl Sagan. Science is a way of thinking much more than it is a body of knowledge. You know, so we want to try to train the kids how to get the resources, so then we should be doing those same things. We should be modeling the collaboration. We should be modeling those leadership skills. We should be modeling how to think, basically. And we realized early on that we had to train the kids how to do that. So, going to engaging students through global issues, when we actually looked, I think it actually was the It's All Connected that we picked up first.
Right, yeah,
So I'm just going to reiterate this because this is so exciting for me, because it was so cool. So we go through this, and we had already come up with our really big ideas. And I went through and I went, Dave, look, There's a chapter on understanding population and capacity. And I just talked about, well, first the kids, we had just said, well, first the kids have to understand how much water we use, where water is, how, where it comes from, where it goes. We could relate ancient civilizations back to it, and the two of us just like brainstormed together, right? And then we saw this and we went, look at this. Meeting essential human needs. Water, food, and what is it? Energy? Yeah. Okay, so what person in the world isn't going to be kind of interested in that? Because that is what's happening in our world today, right? And it was issues that were happening in ancient civilization. And I think, what was it? I think it might have been, was it Sheba that came out and was talking to you about
remember they
that
came and
helped
did
you
a
with the
training, Dave
essential
Wilton and
question?
Sheba came out,
Yeah, 4
and we
years
were
ago.
working on this water project, because I had to study ancient civilizations, river civilizations, and she had to study the water cycle and all that. So we're kind of figuring out how to do this project, and then our ultimate goal is to have them create a civilization of the future at the end of the year. What did you learn about civilizations? What did you learn about water and transportation, all that stuff? And so they came down to do a training, and we're kind of brainstorming, like, I don't know what to do with this. And right away, just threw out a couple of ideas, and it just clicked. Oh my gosh, our project just came together right after that. Okay, and this every drop counts activity went right along with that. We started looking at these and thumbing through these and going, oh my gosh, this will fit with this project. This will fit with this project. So once we had our project concepts laid out, it was easy to start figuring out where these fit in our lessons. So, and that whole concept of sustainability, that kind of, we threaded that through all of our work, and students really bought into that. They would start talking about how can we sustain our classroom community, for instance. How can we sustain, are we using too much water? You did water audits with them, I think, at one point, yeah. So
we're kind of going into, it probably sounds like this like sales pitch, but
it's okay.
but we did want to just tell you that, okay, so moving on to facing the future, it did that, it was thematic, it helped us launch our activities. I'm at a new school now, and now we've got 6 teachers that are trying to integrate together as opposed to just the 2 of us doing it. And one of the reasons I moved to a new school was to be able to see if we could take this to the kids and get the same kind of enthusiasm that we got. So, and so I had, and we're going to do this activity with you in a minute, but we had a group of kids, we did let them eat cake, which is one of the activities that helps the kids understand scarcity. So this is just one example. And it was really cool because the teachers, we have 6 teachers now that are trying to figure this all out and how to integrate and how to make it all work. And we're doing a unit called Food for Thought, and the whole idea, again, is for the kids to understand how those resources are. So they're studying ancient civilizations, they're looking at farming communities in humanities, and then in health, they're looking at nutritional, they're looking at the food pyramid. In science, we're looking at a cellular level, and then going to the food chain and looking how energy is transferred, and then we're going on to the digestive system. So you get the idea, we're tying all this in so that they start understanding the systems. And then their culminating project is to develop a public service announcement on a malnutrition issue, either obesity or hunger. And so it's pretty cool because it's a millennium goal with United Nations, so you can tie all those things in, and those are all things that you kind of get the idea because the resources are in here to be able to do that. So you can do it as a launch. That was what was really cool for us. It just helped us do that. We've done it in the middle of projects. We've picked activities like how big is a billion? Well, kids have no clue how big a billion is when you're talking about 6 billion people in the world that have to have these resources, right? Available to them, then the kids have no concept, and there's activities that are like that. I could go on. So I'm going to. And then we've also used it as culminating actions because there's culminating projects at the end of Facing the Future too, where like we've done a hunger banquet and use that. So there's these ideas. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that for a teacher that has all this complicated life that we started with, in doing that, having resources like this truly is a blessing, and it's something that is well thought out. It's tied to standards. It's doing all of that stuff.
Because textbooks are content, they're organized by content. Well, these are organized by themes and concepts and ideas, which is really the way teachers should be planning now. And that's what we focus on. We come up with big ideas. We would usually come up with one overall theme for the year. And then we come up with a theme for each quarter, because we did a project every quarter. And that was pretty much our curriculum. And we did that in 6th grade and 7th grade. And kids at 6th and 7th grade are just getting ready developmentally to understand those abstract concepts. Some are ready, some aren't. But as you embed those, and they're surrounded by those every day, and they're doing activities related to those every day, you can see the light bulbs start to come on. And pretty soon, and especially when we're working with ethics all the time and systems thinking, like one of the models that we use is the iceberg model. You might have seen that before. We use that for everything. You can use it when we first start talking about individual differences in students. And we talk about above the water line, what do we see? But then what's below that? What kind of a person is that? What experiences have they had, and so on. So it really starts helping them bond. And then when we talk about conflict between countries, or we talk about scientific principles, that's one of those concepts that's so powerful. It's everywhere. We can use it in many different ways, as long as we can see those connections and start thinking. This is a nice foundation for teachers like us to kind of be creative, and that's what we have to have more of. Okay.
I have a couple quotes. Can I give a couple quotes that the kids have?
Go ahead.
Because I think that might be more powerful.
Yeah.
And then I'll end with that, because then we can do an activity with them.
Yeah.
Are we kind of running short on time?
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. After you do that, I want to say one more thing.
Okay, because I do want you to. So
Okay.
See how we work like this? Yeah, it's like,
We should do
so
this in
we
class.
just wanted to share, because it's one thing for us to be up here doing it, but so we're going to do an activity that does involve Stripey here in a minute. The kids actually named him. And when one of our students today saw me taking Stripey out to bring to here tonight, she jumped. What did she say? She jumped in the classroom. She goes, "Oh, you're gonna do the activity with Stripey," and so she remembered that. She grabbed him and wanted our little mascot to be there. And I only did one activity with this thing we're doing tonight with you, so you can kind of get an idea. But here are just 3 quotes from 3 distinctly different kids. One with it has some learning disabilities. And one kid who struggles a little bit mathematically, and another child who would be at a top level, I would consider more gifted and talented. So the first quote is, "Now I know I have an array of gifts and talents I can share and give to the world." These are 7th graders. Second one. "My view of the world has changed drastically. I was a kid who didn't do anything. Now I see you have to do your part. You have to take things and find a way to make them work, even if you are not given the best situation. I know even though," this is the last quote, sorry. "I know even though I am young, I can make a difference. I take action. I do something. I am no longer a follower. I am a leader." And those are just obviously there's dots in between. Those were little snapshots of it. But we read these comments from the kids, over and over. This is just obviously 3 that we took as an example, but I get chills. That's powerful. We can make a difference, and it's not just about STEM. That's like a big buzzword right now, but it's really giving the kids the belief in themselves that they can do this and that they can make a difference. And that's what will make a difference. So anyhow. So what else did you want to answer?
And when you see, what's really cool, at the end of 7th grade, we had it for 2 years, we did a project called Youth in Action, just give you a little snapshot here. And it was basically do something to make the world a better place. Either your local community, your school, something. And we just basically said, go. We taught them how to create project proposals, we taught them how to identify issues, we taught them how to work together, and it was wonderful to watch this stuff happen. The projects that they came up with were phenomenal. These are 7th graders. And it was, all we had to do was coach and support. We still had teams that struggled, but it was phenomenal, the stuff that they came up with. We had adults coming in, the mayor of Federal Way, we had people from Taft coming in, and they were just amazed at the level of work these students were doing. Some of them said that this is college level work. We couldn't believe it. And basically what we had done is teach them these concepts and then get out of their way. And then teach them some more and then get out of their way. But always have their backs. That at 6th and 7th grade you always have to have their backs, because they trip and fall sometimes. And sometimes it's pretty serious, okay? But I think when you see the thought processes going on, someone that's 13 years old, what are they going to be like when they're 17 or 18? And that's the kind of progress we need to keep seeing, okay? And that's the when we get chills, yeah. That's what keeps us going. And now that we're at separate schools and doing different jobs, we're just trying to magnify what we've done. And in fact, I got to tell you, this is really funny. We have an environmental academy at our school. It just started this year, a technology academy and an arts academy. And I was working with the technology academy. I'm the coordinator. Well, I was talking to my partner, who's the coordinator of the environmental academy, and I said, yeah, my partner Deb and I are going to present at Facing the Future. And I said, oh, well, we bought their books. I went, it's everywhere, you know? So I said, well, we need to talk and really talk about how I've used this in the past. So, you know, Facing the Future is kind of out there now, and we never heard of it 4 years ago, so there you go. So you guys are doing an awesome job getting the word out. It's awesome.
You want to do this activity? Are you guys ready to move?
You got to stand up.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, we've got to, I don't know if we can fit
Let's
here.
get a group that can do a circle right here.
Yeah.